Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session together with NTT DATA on the launch of the mobility budget and the success story of its implementation at NTT DATA together with Skipr. We will wait just 2 more minutes for everyone to join the session, and then we will start.
Hey, how are you? Not very good.
Okay, I see people are joining this session. Welcome everyone to this webinar together with NTT Data on the mobility budget. I'm Marussia Colette from Skipr, and today I am here with Zoubida Belhoussine. Welcome, Zoubida.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm Zoubida Belhoussine. I'm the head of people for the Benelux region, and I'm happy to be here today with you to share our experience of implementation of the mobility budget in our office in Belgium.
Thank you and welcome. So for the agenda of today, before we start, just a few practicalities for all participants. You will see on the right of your screen down that there is a section for your questions. So during all the presentation, do not hesitate to put your questions in the questions tab. We will take the time at the end of the session to answer your questions on the implementation of the mobility budget. The purpose today for you is to have really the answers on how to launch the mobility budget in your company. So do not hesitate to ask all your questions. And then for the agenda for today, so on the legal mobility budget, I will start with a little introduction on the legal framework. What is the mobility budget in Belgium? But then we will go into the concrete with Zoubida and explain how you can prepare and implement the mobility budget as an employer in your company. And then we will look at the real numbers at NTT Data today. After 1 year launch, we can see the evolution, how much people opted for the mobility budget, and how is the mobility budget consumed by the employees at NTT Data. And like I said, we'll keep some time afterwards for your questions, so do not hesitate to ask them. So let's start with a little introduction on the legal mobility budget if you're not familiar with it yet. So the mobility budget is a Belgian law, a new option that you can propose as an employer to improve the salary package of your employees. It exists since the end of 2019. And what does it say? So it says that as an employee that is eligible to a company car, the employee can decide to exchange his or her company car budget, what we call the TCO. We will come back to it. The employee can decide to exchange the TCO budget for a mobility budget that can be spent in 3 different pillars. First of all, what's interesting with the mobility budget is that the employee can still opt for a car with the mobility budget, but it has to be a greener car. like you see, it has to be electric, hybrid, or emitting less than 95 gram CO2 per kilometer. However, the mobility budget is really interesting thanks to Pillar 2, because what you do not spend for a company car, and as an employee, you will be able to spend in Pillar 2. And Pillar 2 is the fiscally most interesting pillar because it is untaxed, so untaxed for employee and for employer. And Pillar 2 will enable two types of expenses for an employee. First of all different mobility expenses in all the European Union and for all the family. So that's really broad. You can say public transport operators, shared mobility providers, international trains, car rental companies, buying a bike, an electric step, etc. So it's really all mobility options in the EU. And then Pillar 2 also enables to consume housing costs. So what do we mean with housing costs? It's that you can reimburse your rent or the reimbursement to the bank if you bought a house or an apartment with your Pillar 2 if you live 10 kilometers from the office or if you work most of the time from home. I will come back to the details in a bit with a concrete example, but we have so Pillar 1, greener car, Pillar 2, mobility expenses and housing costs. And then as the mobility budget is a yearly budget, at the end of the year, on 31 of December, you can see, okay, what has not been spent by the employees in Pillar 1 and 2, and that budget will be paid out in cash to the employee, but then with an employee tax of 38.07%. So it's much more interesting for an employee to spend its mobility budget in Pillar 2, which is untaxed. To give you a concrete example, we can imagine an employee that has a car budget, so a TCO of 800 euros per month. He can decide, for example, okay, I absolutely need a car, but I will take an electric car, a smaller car that has a cost of 700 euros per month in Pillar 1. So he will make 100 euro free per month in Pillar 2 that he can spend in mobility expenses or in housing costs. And then at the end of the year, he can get back cash if he wants, but maybe there will be nothing left. But of course, you will also have employees that will say, okay, I do not want a car in Pillar 1 anymore. I will take the full 800 euros in Pillar 2. So I can put, for example, 700 euros in reimbursement, in the reimbursement of my apartment or my house. And then I still have 100 euros over per month. If I need a car to go on holiday, I can rent one when it's needed, etc. And then if there is still budget at the end, I get it back in cash at the end of the year. So the big advantage of the mobility budget is that it's the choice of the employee to choose for the mobility budget, and then it's the employee that will decide how he or her prefers to spend the mobility budget across the three different pillars. So this for a little recap on the law of the mobility budget before going first in the concrete explanation on how to put it in place. And the most important is in the preparation phase as an employer, what you have to do as an employer to go live. Here, Zoubida will be able to help us. The first thing that you have to do as an employer to put the mobility budget in place is to define your internal mobility budget policy. Most of employers today have a classic car company policy that you will have to adapt to a mobility policy that will include this mobility budget with the different categories of budgets of the TCO categories that you will enable in the company. You can also decide as an employer which employees are eligible for the mobility budget in the company, and you can also define specific conditions for eligibility or restrictions that you want to put in place as an employer. So here, Zoubida, on the mobility policy definition, how did you went at NTT Data before going live to define this TCO categories, the eligibility? Did you decide
Mhm.
for specific conditions in your company for the implementation?
Yeah. So first, I'll start. So when we started to look at the mobility budget, actually, we explored the market and the different possibilities that were available on the market, and we found different providers. One of them was Skipr, and the first thing that we did is to meet the different players on the market to see what were the solutions that they were able to offer us. So we met each of them before even going into defining the TCO, etc., or defining our mobility policy. We met with the providers and we looked at the solutions that they had, and we finally decided to work with Skipr because it was offering the best solution for our employees. So we made our choice of the provider before defining our mobility plan policy, and then the next step was to define this policy, to define the TCOs, and the eligibility was really simple because it was possible to enter the mobility budget if you were a load and if you had in your package a car. So all the people and only the people that were eligible to receive a car within their package were able to enter the mobility plan. And then, in regards to the TCO categories, we have worked together with our finance department to define the TCO categories. But we started to work with the mobility, the leasing. The leasing price, the leasing budget that
Mhm.
every individual had. We had something like 6 to 8 budget, and from the leasing budget, we defined together with the finance department, as I said, the TCO categories. So we made the calculation, and the TCO include the monthly price of leasing. It includes also the fuel cost. It included the insurance, the CO2 solidarity contribution, the non-deductible VAT, etc., etc. So we made the calculation together with our finance department, and we had the framework of the TCO, and so we started to work with this.
Because
And
that's a question that we have a lot from other customers, is that do we have to define the TCO with a specific partners, with a specific formula, so you can do it internally,
yes,
define
definitely.
one definition for you, the TCO, and then do the same for all the categories with your partner internally?
Yeah, I really suggest that HR will sit with their finance department and that they will do the calculation. And I think it was really easy to do so. Honestly speaking, I don't remember having issues in defining the CCO together. So it was really easy. And then the specific conditions to enter the plan at the moment we launched the mobility budget was that because we have a particular situation in our company, is that all the people when entering the company, even if they were allowed to receive a company car, they wouldn't go for the company car, and they would receive an allowance. And so the um, the person that would have a car would have to wait for the termination of his leasing, so at the end of the period of the leasing, to enter the mobility plan. And when they were giving back their car, they were able either to enter into they were able to enter the mobility plan by either ordering a car that will enter into pillar one, or by taking the full budget in pillar two. And then the one that for now are still having a car have to wait till the end of their leasing period to enter the plan.
Okay.
I don't know if I covered it all and if there is any question about this.
Very clear. If you have questions for all the audience, don't hesitate to ask them in the question tab on the screen. So that was really step one, is define the mobility budget policy, the categories, who can enter the mobility budget at what time. Then the second step is really to communicate this new plan to the employees. We see it, it's important for the employees to know what are we proposing, what is the new plan, what's in it for me, also for the employees, because most of the time when employees know I can pay with my car budget for my housing costs and have a untaxed budget for mobility expenses, they are really interested. So how did you communicate internally this new plan before going live so that employees knew about the new option they had in their salary package?
So first of all, as from the moment that we started to work on this project, we communicate to our employees. We have a monthly meeting with all the employees in Belgium where we communicate the different HR projects, etc. So in one of these meetings that is called Topic of the Month, we informed our employees that we were working on the optimization of their leasing budget actually. And we maintain them informed month after month. And then when we were going live, I remember that we went live in March last year of 2022. And the months before, so in February, we informed them about the different procedures, etc., the different CEOs, and then we have worked on communication sessions and information sessions together with Skipr, and it was you, Mahusia, that came during the different Q&A sessions to present actually more in detail the plan to our employees and to answer all the questions they had. So it was really easy, and the communication was really smooth with our employees, and they were really enthusiastic about the plan.
And okay, perfect. Yes, so it's important for employers to communicate about it. We also will give you the tools and the presentations that you can put on the drive for employees to know at any time what's the mobility budget and how does it work. And then the third step also before going live, and that's a question we have a lot also from our customers, is okay, what about the reporting that is needed? How will we make the communication with payroll when needed? So that's also a step that we align together before. I don't know if you have a feedback also now from your payroll team to really be able to manage that with Skipr as partner, and then in general to have a smooth integration with payroll.
So I must admit that at the beginning, the reporting part was a bit like tricky, to be fully honest. So we needed to understand which reports we had to send to our Secretariat Social, to our social secretariat. But then after 2-3 months, everything was okay, and now everything is running smooth, I would say. So we send a report at the beginning of the month when we have, well, at the mid month to our payroll provider. And it's true that sometimes there are a few changes that are happening during the month, but we do the correction quite easily the next month, etc. So honestly, the reporting part, it was a bit tricky at the beginning, to be fully honest, but now it's running smoothly.
Yes, because every customer has his own payroll provider, so of course you
Exactly.
can adapt depending on the codes on your provider with whom you are working. So we can adapt also to find the best way of reporting to your payroll provider.
Yeah.
So these were really the 3 steps in the preparation phase for launching. And then if we go really to the implementation, in the implementation phase, we also see really 3 steps that are also fundamental for Skipr and for our partners. First of all is the setup of the tool. So our Skipr solution is composed of a platform for HR to manage the mobility budget, and then an application and a payment card for the employees to consume and follow up, track their mobility budget at any time. But the account, the setup of your company account, we do it together. So we will together define the TCO categories in Skipr, the budgets, which are limits that employees cannot overspend with the solutions. And that we do via HR trainings. So I remember we trained also your HR team. I don't think it's you that is today every day in the tool, but you have different people that manage it today on your side, right?
Indeed, I'm not in the tool, and I think that the only time I entered the tool is when we first prepared the implementation of the plan. Since then, I didn't enter the tool, but my team, all the HR officers that I have in Belgium, have been trained on the tool, and they also were appointed a support person within Skipr, that if they had an issue, etc., they were communicating with this person all the time, and Skipr was there to answer all the questions. And we really felt the support in the first month of the implementation. We really felt the support of Skipr. Now everything runs smoothly, and I must say that we don't have that much contact anymore because everything is running smoothly.
Okay, that's for the setup, and then for the go live, for the official go live, because that's also a question we often have, is that implementing the mobility budget, it's a gradual process, so it's not like on day one you will not have all employees of the company that can go into the mobility budget. So we'll see the numbers afterwards, but we see that it's a really gradual process. So at the go live, we do a kick-off sessions together with the employees that directly started that go live on day one. So I remember at NTT DATA, it was still 32 people that went live on the first day that opted directly.
Exactly.
I don't know how you can explain. It's already a high number because can you tell to the audience how many people are eligible in total today?
We have more or less more than 180 people that are eligible for a car within the company, and nobody, no, not all of our employees opted when they joined the company for a car. We had the possibility to offer a car allowance, and the people that had the car allowance at the time of the launch of the plan were able to enter the plan directly, or the people that already had a car that was entering the pillar one could enter. So that's why we had only 31%, but which is already a high number compared to the number of the employees that we have. We are today we are 280 people in Belgium. We were not that number at the time. I think we were around 200 people at the time. So 31 or 32, I don't remember exactly the right number, but it was around more than 30 people entered the plan. So the ones that had the car allowance or that had a car, because we had a few, now we are starting to go for electric cars. So we had one or two people that were eligible to participate, and these are the people that entered the plan directly.
Okay. That for the go live, and then on support, you already said it, but we know that in the what we call the hypercare phase, so the weeks before the launch and the first months after the launch, when we get too familiar with the tool, with the usage, so there is user support and HR support that is given on communication, but also on daily needs. If employees have specific questions, also important, your employees can directly contact the Skipr support team if they have technical questions. Can I do this with pillar 2? How can I consume this service, for example? They do not have to go towards your HR team for guidance.
Yes, I confirm that. Well, the first step is to always come to HR because they always have a questions, and or the people of reference is always HR. But we send them directly to Skipr, and then they can ask their question directly. And as I said, we had from even before the implementation date, we had a support person assigned from Skipr to NTT Data that was there to answer all the questions we had. And it's true that at the beginning of the implementation, we had a few issues with the platform. We couldn't enter new people directly in the platform, etc. But Skipr was always there to help us. And now, since this period, the platform has also evolved and is much more user friendly today, because we can directly enter the platform. We can enter the new people. We can also enter the budget, the different TCO that we have within the platform, which was not possible at the beginning. So also just to mention that Skipr is also working on improving the platform all the time. So when we give a feedback to Skipr, they take the feedback seriously and they work on it to improve the platform.
Okay, great. And so now we saw the preparation phase, the implementation phase. We can go to a few numbers because I know that's also something customers like to see. So now we are, you launched the mobility budget so in March 2022,
Correct.
so a little bit more than 1 year ago. And here you can also see so the improvements on the number of employees on the mobility budgets and its evolutions since the launch. So like we said few minutes ago, on day one, there were 32 employees that opted for the mobility budget. And what you can see, which is a really positive story at NTT DATA, is like each month, since then, you have between 5 and 10 people that joined the plan to reach today 118 people on the mobility budget for 180 company cars. So this means that 65% of eligible employees opted for the mobility budget in 1 year. So that's a really, really nice numbers that we see. I don't know if you can explain how it comes that it's so gradual, that you have such a gradual evolution of people joining the mobility budget each month at NTT Data.
Well, first of all, it's one of the thing that we use within our recruitment process to attract our people. We know that today in our world, in the IT consulting world, it's a bit the war for talent. So we need to attract talent and to retain them. So it's a way to attract the people. To be fully honest, because in our industry, we only have 15% of companies in our industries that are having today a mobility budget plan. So it's something that really attracts the people because it's an optimization of their package. And so all the new people that are entering the company are, I must say, opting for the mobility plan, first of all.
Mhm.
And second of all the people that are finishing the 4-year period of their leasing car are deciding to opt for the mobility plan instead of going for a diesel car or etc. So they are preferring to go directly into the mobility budget when their leasing is coming to an end. So that is explaining the numbers that are progressively rising.
Okay, very clear. And if we check, and if we look now at how do employees consume the mobility budget, we wanted to give a few data here on the consumption of the mobility budget. So we see the top 5 services that are used in Pillar 2 with the budget. So like you saw on 118 people on the mobility budget at NTT Data, 99 use it full or partly today to reimburse their housing costs, so the rent,
Mhm.
the reimbursement to the bank. So we see that reimbursement of the housing cost has really a lot of success. Is of course fiscally very interesting alternative to
Exactly.
the company car. So we see that is the most successful. Then we see public transport stays, of course, the most used transport provider, mobility provider. So we see 63 users also using mobility budget for public transport. A lot of success also on Uber and car sharing. So, of course, sometimes it's people that will drop the car in Pillar 1, they will take the budget for mobility. So when they need a car, they will take shared cars, etc. So we see 28 users of shared mobility and Uber that is really also used by more young people also when during their private time. The fourth more used is then the shared mobility providers, like the shared steps, shared bikes that we see in the city. And then the fifth more used service was the purchase of a bike. So you have 5 employees that used the budget to buy a bike directly with the budget. So here we see really how that the budget is used. And when we see this, we see that you have 90% of your employees that are monthly active. It means they at least do one expense with Skipr every month. So that is really
Mhm.
a high activation rate. I don't know if you have a feedback of your employees on that they use it really on a monthly basis for the consumption.
Well, actually, what they like within this plan is it's really flexible. So I mean, they can use it as they want, as they really want. If they want to use it for public transport, if they want to use it, sorry, for housing costs, etc. So that's the flexibility, I think, that explains the high numbers, because I mean, sometimes they go on holiday, so they won't use public transport, but they will use it for housing costs. Sometimes they are traveling within Belgium and they are using it for public transportation, like train, etc. So I think, I mean, in my opinion, and while discussing with the employees here, that's really the flexibility that Skipr offers that justify these figures.
Okay. Um, and then to conclude, before going to the questions, because I see a lot of questions coming in the questions tab, we wanted to see finally, after 1 year of launch, what would you say, if we go to the last slide, what are the benefits of launching the mobility budget, and then the challenges, if you can give a little overview to the audience today.
Well, the first benefit and the first I would say advantage was really, it was the mobility budget was really aligned with the company objective in terms of sustainability. So we really wanted to reduce our carbon footprint. So that was the first objective, and the second one is really to offer flexible salary package to our employees so that they could use as they want, but also a flexible and optimized salary package, because there is a real optimization of the salary package. Remember, the pillar 2 is completely tax free, so the money that they will receive in their hand is really money that they can use either for housing cost or for public transportation. So there is a real full optimization of the package there. And yeah, and I think that as I already mentioned, it's a real asset for to attract employees and for our recruitment. So these are top three benefits of implementing the mobility budget.
And then
Yeah.
on the challenges, I think you mentioned it already, but you saw the most
Yeah.
challenges, if I remember, is the housing cost, and then the fact that our solution evolved from V1 to now the
Yeah.
last version that enables much more options than before.
Yeah, indeed, as I mentioned already, in the first few months, the challenge was really to understand how the reporting was working, and also for our employees to understand that what they had to do, and the process actually, because for example, if I take the housing cost, employees need to upload on a monthly basis either their rental agreement or their the agreement with the bank if they have a loan, etc. So they needed to understand that they had to upload it on a monthly basis, because their situation can change and can evolve throughout the time. So it was a bit of a challenge at the beginning, but now everything is clear. The process is really clear to our people. It is also well explained when we onboard new employees. We have our people page, so our intranet, that is explaining the process really well, and there is a Q&A about the use of the mobility budget on our intranet, so they can find all the answers there. And yeah, as I mentioned, we have kept Skipr informed about the little problems that we had at the beginning. And as I said, Skipr was really listening to our feedback and made everything possible to make the platform evolve to answer all our needs, all our company needs. So we really see a good communication channel with Skipr as they are listening to our feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was clear, and that we can go over now to the Q&A, because I see some in the chat. Can you all please put your questions in the question tab, so that we can go over them now? I see a first question is that if you order a company car but the order is still in progress, and the car is not delivered yet, but it's meeting all conditions of Pillar 1, can the employee enter the mobility plan already?
Well, I can answer this question. Yes, if there is a car in order and the car is not delivered, actually, employees can benefit from the mobility budget of the Pillar 2, and actually they can enter the budget. The if they don't have a car, of course,
Yes.
they can enter the plan whenever they want, and they can go out of the plan. So they can decide if this month I want to be in the plan, and if next month I don't want to be. They can really decide, and that's offering all the flexibility that I was referring to before. So yes, it's
Yes.
possible.
And that goes to the second question. How often can employees change their approach between the pillars, starting with pillar 2 and then needing a car later when you have kids, etc.? So that's important. It really depends on your mobility policy. As an employer, you can define certain rules. We have customers that say when you enter the mobility budget, it's for the full year until December, and you can change again in January. Or you have employers that are more flexible and say, okay, you can change whenever you want. Zoubida, I don't know, at NTT Data, what did you define?
Well, actually, we find that people that had already a car, that when we implemented the plan, needed to wait for the end of the leasing period to enter the plan. And actually, when the end of the lease is over, they can directly enter the plan. And I can tell you that when people enter the plan, they will never go back. They are staying there. If they have the possibility to optimize their package, they are doing it. And if people have a car in pillar 1, of course, they have to no, well, actually, they are in the plan, so they can benefit from pillar 2 too, if their TCO allows it, of course. But well, if they don't have a car directly, they can enter the plan directly from day 1.
Okay. Clear. And then also a question for you. You had a system of car allowance before. Do you still maintain this system at NTT Data?
Well, actually, yes, we had a system of car allowance, and we still have. But I can tell you that nobody is choosing for this car allowance anymore. They are directly going into pillar 2 of the mobility plan.
Okay. Clear. Then a question, can you maybe give again the explanation on which cost did you include for managing your TCO? Just in the computation broadly, what did you include in the TCO calculations?
Yes, so the first thing was the monthly price of the leasing. The second was the fuel cost, the insurance of the car, the CO2 solidarity contribution, the non-deductible VAT, the corporate tax, and non-deductible car expenses.
Okay. Voilà. And so
These are all the elements of
indeed,
yes,
and per category,
exactly.
per category of TCO, you have the same.
Exactly.
Okay. Then a question: is it legally possible to start a mobility budget for a company not having implemented company car for green reasons? So no, that's legally. To implement the mobility budget as an employer, you have to have at least one company car in the company with a car policy, or you can just. So you need one company car, in the company at least to start implementing the mobility budget. It's to have no abuse and that people start giving mobility budgets. The law was really created to convert the company car into a budget. So that was the answer for this. Next questions. We give the options to our employees to trade in wage for a company car. Can they choose for the mobility budget? So that's a no. So that's also the legal framework. That's how the law has been done by the government. You can only people eligible to a company car can opt for the mobility budget, but not to a car when it's given via salary sacrifice. Then that was already answered. The Skipr also provide with guidance to implement the mobility budget policy, etc., in case it's needed by the company. So yes, we can accompany you in the different steps. We have different guides. Also, we create the different guides with the different steps you have to take and how to set up a policy, what has to be in it and what has to be defined by you upfront, launching, like we said today, in the preparation phase of the mobility budget. Then other questions, do employers usually subtract the cost of Skipr from the employee's mobility budget? I don't know, Zoubida, if you do that, I don't think so. You can deduct the cost of Skipr from the mobility budget of the employees, but I don't think you do it that way.
Well, actually, we included this in the TCO calculation, to be fully honest with you.
Okay, so that it's neutral for you today
Yes.
to cost-wise to implement.
Yes, exactly.
Or the employees that, it's a good question, we have that often, employees that do not have the options to go for the mobility budget, are they not frustrated that they are not eligible, and how do you deal with this?
Well, we do have employees that are not eligible for company car. Of course, they are frustrated, but it's giving them something to look at, because the more they grow within the company, then the possibility to have a company car will is there. So yeah, if they get promoted to the next level, they can have access to a company car. And yes, sometimes we have some people frustrated, but yeah, that's the policies that we have in house, and yeah, we can make the policy evolve, but it's sometimes very difficult budget wise.
Yes, and here also, just so you know, we also have another option. You can activate it, Skipr. It's a commuting plan. So for people who are not eligible to a company car, you could say, we also give you access to the Skipr applications, but then in a restricted way, just for commuting, having flexible options to go to the office and go home. You can then not use it privately, like the mobility budget, which is a private budget, but it's in order to also give the option to the employees who are not eligible to the company. Is Skipr fully integrated with social secretaries? So here we have partnerships with different social secretaries. So depending on with whom you're working, we can discuss how it's working. And we have different levels of integrations. We can send the file every month in the right format for you just to upload, so that you don't have to validate, make a manual inputs in the tool, etc. So via upload, it can be done, and depending on your social secretary, we can discuss the integration levels. It also depends on how much employees, of course, are in the company to integrate with the system. That was already answered. Do you also have the numbers of the CO2 reductions since the implementation of the mobility budget?
I don't have it in mind right now, but I can definitely ask, because I know that we have made some calculation together with our facility manager, but I don't have it right now in mind. So I don't want to answer a stupid number, but it's true that we have seen an impact in the CO2 reduction. Yeah.
Okay, so we can come back to you on this.
Yes, definitely.
Then other question to Skipr, do you know which features from your app are the most important, the crucial for users? I think today in our solution, what's the most important is really the combination of an app and a mobility card. So thanks to the mobility card, we enable employees to not have to pay for their mobility upfront and keep the tickets, and then give the tickets to the employer and get reimbursed at the end of the month. So we really facilitate the process. The employer will define the budget upfront. The budget is available to the user. And what we do is that we have configured the mobility card and the app to be only used on all mobility services in Europe that are allowed in Pillar 2. So once the budget is defined, the users are really free in the consumption. They can pay all year long for their mobility with our solutions at any time. And in real time, they can follow up their budgets thanks to the app. So they can see at any time what is left over, what have I already consumed. So it's really in the consumption that it's really easy to use for the users, thanks to the combination of app and payment cards in one single solution. And then I see another question: how will a company reimburse housing expenses? So, like we explained, maybe not go in detail, but all mobility expenses via Skipr will be done directly with our solution. You can pay with the app, with the card that will deduct the budget at any time. For housing costs, so the employee, like Zoubida explained, will make a manual request in Skipr to reimburse housing costs with us. He will have to join, for example, a picture of his contract with his loan contract with the bank, or rental contract with the amount that he is reimbursing. And then after validation from HR that the users is okay in the conditions, the mobility budget of the users will be deducted with the housing costs, and those housing costs will come in the reportings to be reimbursed via payroll at the end of the month. So that's the flow. You have two payment flows when you work with Skipr on the mobility budget. Mobility expenses go in direct payment via our solution. Housing costs will be reimbursed to the users via payroll at the end of the month. I think I'm checking, but that went over all the questions in the question tab. If you have other questions that come up that we did not respond today, you have here my email address on the screen. Do not hesitate to reach out if you want to ask some more questions, or to call us. We are there to help you. You will all receive also the recording of the session directly via email if needed, if you want to review it. But I really want to thank all people that joined the session today, and specifically Zoubida. Thank you today for explaining how you implemented the mobility budget, and to show really concretely how you did it, and with the numbers today after 1 year. I think it was really interesting for other employers to see that it's not that complicated. It looks complicated, but it can be easy to implement the mobility budget in the company.
It was really my pleasure to be here with you and to answer all the questions. And just for the note, I'm not part of the mobility plan that I implemented within the company, because I have to wait for my the end of my leasing. So even if I worked hard to implement it, I was not eligible from day one. So I'm waiting for the end of my leasing to enter the plan. Just
Okay.
for the note.
So we will welcome you on Skipr anytime.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, and have an excellent day.
Thank you very much, Marcia.
Bye-bye.
Bye.